Music Room Portraits. The portraits in the music room are not merely decorations. They are in fact tulpas, meaning forms created from collective human fear and obsession, centered on portraits of great composers. In this case, there are a total of 6 entities formed. They only appear when someone plays music terribly at a time, after 2 in the morning, as a punitive reaction toward those who offend their existence. Tulpas are entities realized from shared belief. They take on distorted forms of musical icons from Western history. The power of these tulpas lies entirely within music. Through instruments, they can turn each musical note into energy masses that explode upon impact with a target. When all 6 perform together, the pressure of their assault is pushed to a level that is nearly impossible to withstand. Every symphony they perform distorts the surrounding space, turning the battlefield environment into an absolute advantage for the tulpas. Symphony No. 6 reconstructs the room into a vast pastoral landscape where the ground can restrain the movement of opponents, making them ideal targets for explosive musical notes from above. In contrast, Symphony No. 9 creates a massive opera hall where numerous singers, along with 4 giant entities, are summoned to both attack and protect the tulpas during combat. Throughout the battle, the portraits can hover in midair to maintain a safe distance. However, this entire system depends directly on the conductor. When the central factor is defeated, the remaining tulpas immediately lose stability and become clearly more vulnerable. When defeated, all damage caused by the musical notes disappears as if it never existed. However, if an opponent has already suffered fatal wounds during the fight, the consequences remain in the real world. This shows that the destructive power of the tulpas is not illusory. After the battle ends, the portraits return to an inanimate state, restoring silence to the music room. These tulpas demonstrate the power of imagination and fear. When human belief and emotion become strong enough, they can create imaginary entities that directly affect reality, especially through music. Turbo Granny. Turbo Granny is a well-known yokai who once resided in a tunnel in Shono City until her confrontation with Momo Ayase and Okarun. After her defeat, her power was sealed inside Okarun's body, while her true form was confined within a lucky beckoning cat. From that point on, Turbo Granny accepted a deal with Momo, agreeing to help Okarun recover the golden balls in exchange for a chance to be released from the seal and regain her power. As an ancient and dangerous yokai, she had once fused with the spirit of the Earthbound Spirit Crab in Shono. She typically appears as an elderly woman capable of running at speeds of up to 100 kilometers per hour and takes great pride in her swiftness. Turbo Granny never refuses a race, and anyone who gives up or falls behind her speed will be cursed. Turbo Granny's curse allows her to possess her victims and turn them into near-identical copies of herself, driving them into an uncontrollable frenzy. In addition, her curse is contagious. Anyone who witnesses a possessed individual can become the next victim, suffering effects such as bleeding from the nose and ears, which can even lead to heart attacks or strokes. In her complete yokai form, Turbo Granny can exist as a pure spiritual entity, releasing killing intent powerful enough to overwhelm both the mind and body of her opponents. Her most terrifying feature is her iconic massive mouth, which not only possesses a brutal bite strong enough to strip victims of their precious parts, but also allows her to cast curses from a distance without any physical contact. Notably, in this state, Turbo Granny can fully manipulate the minds of those under her curse like puppets, while also creating an isolated pocket dimension where time flows independently. This space allows her to communicate directly with her victims while remaining completely detached from the outside reality. Despite her reputation for brutality and her readiness to punish anyone who challenges her, Turbo Granny still carries a compassionate side. Her fusion with the Spirit Crab originally stemmed from a desire to comfort and protect the souls of young women who were murdered along the road to the afterlife. This nature gradually reveals itself after she is defeated, and her spirit is sealed inside a stuffed toy, leading to an unexpected bond with the main cast. In her new role, Turbo Granny becomes a supernatural encyclopedia, providing knowledge about yokai and the spirit world that Momo and Okarun could never obtain on their own. Although she is unable to fight directly in her stuffed toy form, she continues to subtly influence the course of events. After Okarun recovers the golden balls, Turbo Granny reclaims all of her power and leaves the group. Even after restoring her abilities, she does not seek revenge, and instead chooses to depart due to her past connection with Count Saint-Germain. With the bond between her and him still unresolved, the possibility of Turbo Granny's return and her significance in the future remains open. Acrobatic Silky. When Acrobatic Silky was alive, she was an exhausted single mother who worked endlessly with only one purpose: to give her young daughter a better life. She took any job she could, even trading away her own body as long as she could bring home a little money so her child could eat well and smile. The debts kept piling up, yet she continued to believe that as long as her daughter was happy, everything could be endured. One day, after gathering all the little money she had left, she bought her daughter a pretty dress. That rare moment of peace was quickly shattered when debt collectors stormed into the house, beat her brutally, and kidnapped the child right in front of the helpless mother. Despite her body being covered in injuries, she desperately chased after the truck in the pouring rain, screaming her daughter's name as she ran, but everything ended in despair when the vehicle disappeared from sight. When her last hope was gone, she climbed onto rooftops, danced gently, and then threw herself down. That pain drowned the mother in darkness and transformed her into an extremely powerful yokai. Wearing the haunting red dress, Acrobatic Silky wandered through the human world with no memory of the tragic past that created her. After death, that soul roamed the city and accidentally encountered a young girl who mistook her for her deceased mother. That girl was Ira Shiratori. Even though Ira could not yet see spirits at the time, Acrobatic Silky silently stayed by her side for over a decade, believing that Ira was the daughter she had lost. The true tragedy began when Ira Shiratori entered her teenage years and gradually awakened the ability to see yokai. Realizing this change, Acrobatic Silky began clinging to Ira with increasingly extreme obsession. When Ira firmly refused to call her mom, the yokai's twisted maternal instinct resurfaced and led to the act of swallowing the girl. The greatest strength of Acrobatic Silky lies in her extremely flexible body and terrifying speed enough to chase down and even surpass Okarun when he uses the power of Turbo Granny. She retains her acrobatic skills from when she was alive, allowing her to deliver powerful kicks and combine them with her long tentacle-like hair to create relentless attack chains. This hair gives Acrobatic Silky superior range and can also capture opponents or control the surrounding environment. However, that same hair is also a very human weakness, as it can be set on fire. Recognizing this, Momo quickly used a lighter to burn the yokai's hair, forcing Acrobatic Silky to release them. The pair then joined forces to defeat her, but the true turning point of this character only came after the battle. Seeing that Ira was unconscious after being swallowed, Acrobatic Silky, driven by her maternal instinct, begged Momo to use her as a source of spiritual energy to revive Ira. In her final moments, she remembered her biological daughter and her own mistakes. Overwhelmed by regret, she broke down in tears and apologized, wishing she could have done more after receiving sincere comfort from Ira in her final moment. Acrobatic Silky finally found peace and passed on to the other world, leaving her remaining power to Ira. Earthbound Spirit Crab. Earthbound Spirit Crab is an earthbound spirit that was once bound inside a tunnel in Shono City. This entity takes the form of a giant freshwater crab with a shell covered in distorted faces of young girls who were murdered. On the underside of its body, there are multiple rows of mouths and noses, along with a large pair of eyes, creating a form that is both grotesque and terrifying. The nature of Earthbound Spirit Crab is not that of a single spirit but a fusion of many vengeful souls, most of them young girls, who died in the area around the tunnel. Because each individual soul was too weak, Earthbound Spirit Crab fused with another extremely powerful yokai known as Turbo Granny. This fusion turned it into a dominant spiritual entity within Shono City. Both shared control over the territory, allowing them to manipulate most low-level spirits in the area. Through the large cemetery on the outskirts of the city, they could possess local residents, creating a mindless zombie army to hunt down and eliminate enemies. In its complete state, Earthbound Spirit Crab possesses immense destructive power. Its claws are strong enough to destroy large structures with only a few strikes. When fused with Turbo Granny, the movement speed of this entity can reach around 100 km per hour, even surpassing a bullet train at maximum. After Turbo Granny was captured, Earthbound Spirit Crab immediately pursued Momo and Okarun with the goal of rescuing her. During this intense chase, Momo lured the crab into a bathhouse at an inn and slowed it down using boiling water traps. Despite being slowed, Earthbound Spirit Crab still managed to possess residents by using spirits from the nearby cemetery. It then fully fused with Turbo Granny to corner Momo and Okarun. However, Momo activated her psychic power to cling onto a moving bullet train. Earthbound Spirit Crab continued its frantic pursuit of the train, but eventually realized it had been lured into a pre-arranged trap set by Seiko. As a result, the Earthbound Spirit Crab was completely exorcised, ending its reign of terror in Shono City. Hana and Taro. Hana and Taro are two human anatomy models that have been anthropomorphized with half of their bodies covered in skin, while the other half fully exposes muscle tissue. Through unexplained supernatural factors, these two models became living entities existing within the space of a laboratory and display cabinets. Notably, neither of them retains memories of a previous life. They act as if they were born in this form, and the only clearly defined presence in their consciousness is the affection they hold for each other. Hana is a female anatomy model who is brought to live at the Momo family home. Half of her body exposes muscle fibers, while the other half is covered by skin because she has no arms or legs. Hana stands upright through a base connected directly to her torso. When she arrives, she is given a hat and clothing to conceal her abnormal body. Hana barely communicates with those around her, partly due to her timid personality and partly because her world appears to revolve solely around Taro. Taro is a male anatomy model with a similar structure. He demonstrates mobility far beyond normal limits and possesses extraordinary speed that rivals Okarun in his enhanced state when using Turbo Granny's power. He can even generate enough momentum to pull Momo while she clings to him using psychic abilities. In contrast, Hana has completely lost her limbs, which is most likely the reason she was discarded and sent to a junkyard. Hana once urged Taro to continue living and forget about her, but he firmly refused. Taro states that he cannot exist without Hana. This bond leads the main group to decide to bring Hana back to the Momo house, allowing Taro to visit her. In exchange, during the daytime, he must pretend to be an inanimate anatomy model like the other display items. Despite their anatomy model forms, Hana and Taro still possess extraordinary endurance. Taro once survived being struck by a truck and was able to reconstruct his body before dawn so as not to miss a meeting with Hana. He has complete control over his bodily structure and can detach individual parts and reassemble them in a short time. Taro uses this ability to escape Momo's soul-binding restraint and to imprison the evil eye yokai within his own body, completely restricting its movement. Even though they can exist without full limbs or internal organs, both of them can still feel pain. This is clearly shown when Momo tightly grasps Taro's heart, demonstrating that internal organs are one of their rare weaknesses. Evil Eye. Evil Eye is one of the most terrifying yokai ever to appear, to the point that even Turbo Granny understands that he should not be challenged head-on. Yet, when he was still human, Evil Eye was nothing more than a weak and lonely boy. He was chosen as a human sacrifice to prevent a volcanic disaster and was confined inside the sacrificial house. There, he was starved and completely isolated from the outside world, able only to watch other children play while he himself longed to live like a normal human being. His death came in utter despair and extreme loneliness, enough for his soul to return and haunt the very place that had imprisoned him. After becoming a yokai, Evil Eye initially retained a fragment of his humanity when he tried to save another child from the Kito family's sacrificial ritual. However, that failure completely twisted his mind, turning Evil Eye into a vengeful spirit consumed by hatred toward humanity. That moment marked the birth of his resentment not only toward the Kito family but toward all of mankind. From then on, Evil Eye's sole objective was to find a suitable host and exterminate humans without exception. For many years, Evil Eye was bound within the sacrificial house of Tsuchinoko. When the Enjoji family moved in, he immediately set his sights on Gigi and the boy's extraordinarily powerful innate spiritual energy. Later, when Momo, Okarun, and Gigi uncovered the Kito family's brutal sacrificial rituals and confronted Tsuchinoko directly, Evil Eye suddenly intervened. In that critical moment, he nullified the giant serpent's influence over Momo and Okarun, then recounted his entire tragic past to Gigi. Realizing that Evil Eye truly only wished to put an end to the sacrificial rituals that had destroyed his family, Gigi ignored all warnings and accepted being possessed. Once inside a human body, Evil Eye demonstrated overwhelming physical control, moving at terrifying speed and unleashing attacks with immense destructive power. His greatest threat comes from the orbs of resentment formed from the accumulated hatred of the Kito family's sacrificial victims. These masses of energy can autonomously pursue their targets, pass through obstacles, and devastate everything in their path. In addition, Evil Eye can shape this malice to create structures such as the Cursed House, which both protects him and traps his enemies. Despite harboring the intent to annihilate humanity, deep down, Evil Eye is still just a child who longs to play with others. That twisted desire causes him to perceive violence as a game. For this reason, when facing Okarun, Evil Eye is willing to set aside his world-ending ambitions simply to enjoy the thrill of battle. From that point on, he becomes a dangerous yet useful ally to the main cast, as long as they can make him believe that every fight is merely part of a game. Fairy Tale Card. Fairy Tale Card is an extremely dangerous yokai sealed within Danbanra, an otherworldly space that exists inside the Cursed Trunk. This seal was created using the combined energy of 4 guardian deities along with a crystal core. Despite being imprisoned, Fairy Tale Card did not completely lose its power. It manipulated the structure of the Cursed Trunk, creating a pocket dimension that turned the area into a fantasy board game like Trial filled with mindless NPCs. Anyone who opens Danbanra is reduced in size into a game piece and becomes trapped within this cursed dimension. With its limited understanding of humans, Fairy Tale Card designed a survival game that appears engaging on the surface, using sweets as food while transforming the guardian deities into boss enemies that can be defeated. When it reaches its complete form, Fairy Tale Card swells to an inhuman size and extends tentacles that wield enormous cards, each one representing a human sense. When activated, these cards can strip away the corresponding sense from an opponent, ranging from inducing blindness to temporarily destroying hearing through an extremely powerful shockwave, placing the victim at a severe disadvantage. Fairy Tale Card's most terrifying ability lies in its power to corrupt the human mind by forcibly establishing direct eye contact. It invades the deepest emotional wounds and turns its victims into instruments of hatred. Although it can only possess one individual at a time, Fairy Tale Card is still able to manipulate an almost unlimited number of people by forcing them to open the eyes of others. This process amplifies spiritual power to an extreme degree and often results in severe life depletion, as seen in the case of Onbusuman, who nearly lost his life after being forced to release power beyond his limits. Fairy Tail card can be defeated by directly attacking its main face, but its cards will reactivate if they are not destroyed simultaneously. After being defeated by the main cast, Fairy Tail card shrinks into a small ball of fur. Its remaining power is then swiftly finished off by Hyper Geezer, who seizes all of its abilities and elevates his own power to an entirely new level. Onbusuman. Onbusuman is a yokai whose name carries multiple interpretations, suggesting the image of a guardian while also being associated with the familiar nickname Crying Old Man. In folklore, Onbusuman is usually not the spirit of an adult, but the lingering soul remnants of children who passed away too early and never received enough love and care while alive. The instinct of Onbusuman is to climb onto a human back in search of affection. If treated with compassion, this spirit can gradually calm down and pass on. But if ignored or rejected, Onbusuman begins to change. Its body swells larger, and its weight increases uncontrollably until it becomes heavy enough to crush the host it clings to. Although it retains memories from its previous life, its love slowly turns into resentment, causing the desire to be loved to transform into an intent to kill. This emotional manipulation occurs because the soul of Onbusuman unconsciously affects the surrounding gravity, drawing other spirits toward it until it grows large enough to fully dominate its host. In the anime, Onbusuman is born from the deep regret of Mai Kabanga, the childhood friend of Rin Sawaki, who died in a car accident together with her mother. As children, Rin Mai and their friends dreamed of becoming a child pop music group. They practiced every day hoping to step onto a stage in a talent competition. However, due to family circumstances, Rin was forced to withdraw when her mother had to work constantly to make a living. This decision left the group devastated, especially Mai, who reacted harshly and believed that Rin had betrayed their shared dream. Understanding how important that dream was, Rin decided to go and apologize. Her grandmother sensed this wish and allowed Rin to go out to meet her friends again, but on the way, tragedy struck as Mai and her mother were involved in an accident and passed away, ending any chance of reconciliation. From that point on, Onbusuman relentlessly haunted Rin, planting guilt within her that she herself was the cause of Mai's death and the loss of her future. Even after growing up and understanding that the accident was not her fault, the immature memories of childhood combined with the resentment of the yokai twisted the final image of Mai in Rin's mind. Only when returning to the site of the accident did the true memories of Onbusuman begin to resurface. The bound spirit was released and this yokai appeared in the pure form of Mai Kabanga. Mai abandoned her hostility and became Rin's guardian spirit, determined to help her continue pursuing her dream of singing. Although no longer as violent as before, Mai still retains a sharp and caustic personality and does not hesitate to deliver sarcastic remarks at sensitive moments. Even so, she allows Rin to use her spiritual power under one condition: that Rin must continue to stand on stage and sing. Reiko Kashima. Reiko Kashima, also known as the Slit-Mouthed Woman, is an extremely dangerous yokai who once resided in the ruined areas of Kamikoshi City. Reiko is the embodiment of narcissism and is heavily obsessed with her own appearance. She often approaches passers-by and asks whether she is beautiful, and a single answer perceived as insulting is enough to instantly ignite her fury. Because of this distorted ego, Reiko only takes interest in those she considers less attractive than herself, often imprisoning them within the mirror dimension to satisfy her need for comparison. However, this psychological tactic once backfired when Momo and Vamora obscured Reiko's reflection, something she could not endure. Ironically, the striking beauty of the two only provoked Reiko's jealousy, forcing her to expel them from the mirror dimension. Although she usually appears grotesque due to her heavy makeup and oversized torn mouth, beneath that exterior lies an exceptionally beautiful and captivating face. In terms of power, Reiko stands among the strongest yokai in the series, possessing overwhelming physical strength and terrifying speed. When Momo attempted to activate a warning talisman, Reiko moved so fast that before Momo could even finish speaking, she was violently slammed into a wall. Reiko's defensive capabilities are equally absurd, as she casually ignored attacks from Vamora's massive exosuit without suffering any damage. However, Reiko's most dangerous ability lies in her power to manipulate mirrors. Not only can she imprison humans within the mirror dimension, but she can also extend this space to any reflective surface with a range that covers at least an entire city. Through this, Reiko can redirect attacks through mirrors, completely restrain her targets, or render them utterly immobile. She once even trapped an entire alien spaceship invasion inside the mirror dimension and annihilated it using nothing but a series of consecutive punches. Behind this overwhelming destructive power lies a tragic past connected to a wartime bombing disaster, which shaped the deep resentment within her. However, Reiko's consciousness is not entirely consumed by darkness. Upon witnessing the desperate and sincere feelings Momo holds for Okarun, she comes to realize that love is what truly matters. In the end, Reiko chooses to let go of her hatred, forgives the main cast, and departs to search for true love of her own. Umbrella Boy. Futazuma, the younger brother of Unji-zuma, had a childhood shaped by poverty and tragedy. Despite facing harsh circumstances, Futa always found comfort in two precious gifts from his mother, a pair of rain boots and an umbrella. These items became his rare source of happiness amid adversity. From a very young age, Futa swore that he would always keep them with him. His life changed completely after the death of his father, forcing his mother to raise the two brothers on her own. On a fateful stormy day while returning home, Futa chased after an umbrella that had been blown away by the wind. Tragedy struck when the boy accidentally fell into a river and died, bringing his short life to an end. After his death, Futa's spirit transformed into a yokai known as Umbrella Boy. This yokai has a bizarre appearance with a single large eye in the center, exposed teeth, and a body covered by a worn umbrella. Its distinctive form is also associated with one large leg wearing a geta, a traditional Japanese wooden sandal. Despite his frightening appearance, Umbrella Boy is a gentle spirit, existing with a single purpose: to help Unji break the cycle of death that has haunted the Zuma family for generations. When merged with Unji, Umbrella Boy grants him the ability to fly through the air using umbrellas, something Futa once dreamed of while he was alive. Through this fusion, Unji can summon umbrellas that generate extremely powerful shockwaves, destroying obstacles while also allowing him to move at high speed in mid-air. Under normal conditions, Unji can only use 2 umbrellas per day, but when pushed to his limits, he can release an almost limitless source of power in exchange for severe strain on his body. Throughout his journey, Unji uses the power of Umbrella Boy to protect those he loves and confront his fate. Nevertheless, Umbrella Boy itself never yearned for prolonged battles, as its existence was always tied to the desire to protect rather than to destroy. After countless hardships, Umbrella Boy's spirit was finally freed and reunited with the other members of the Zuma family in the afterlife, bringing an end to a tragedy that had spanned multiple generations. Even though the yokai had passed on, Unji retained the power Umbrella Boy left behind, continuing forward with the resolve to protect his family and those he holds dear. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our upcoming videos.